Thanks for joining us in this Apple Vision Pro episode. I'm Nico, and as usual, I'm joined with Christina. Today, we have a special guest, Will, from our MDM team. Hey, Will.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We'll cover things Apple Vision Pro, from its features and technology, cultural impact and public reception. We'll also share our personal experience with it and how it can be used for work. But first, how are you guys going?
Yeah, pretty good. Flight came in on time, so I'm here in one piece. Which
exactly.
Is great. Yeah.
Will, Sydney-based, has joined us here in Melbourne, sunny Melbourne.
It's been sunny today, which is nice, opposed to what everybody else has been saying about the weather down here. It's been quite nice, yeah.
Apple Vision Pro, this is the biggest thing to come out of Apple for quite a while, I feel. What's one thing you can say about it? Is it the next big thing or is it just another gadget?
I think it is genuinely going to be the next big thing. Spatial computing in its raw form at the moment, but we've seen that before. The iPhone coming out was probably the last time it's happened, a big transition from button-heavy devices to touch interface, right?
And similarly so, like when the iPhone was announced, there was very much a dominant Nokia presence in the sort of like having something in your hand. So, and it's not like things changed overnight the moment it was announced. It was very much a slow shift, right?
Slow shift, for
Christina, your thoughts?
Similar. I mean, I don't think it might be a new gadget right now, but I think in about 3 years' time, it will have changed the scene of how we use our phones, if we use our phones, just how we work. I think it will change. I think right now it's probably hard to see the full picture, but with time it'll definitely change.
Let's get into a deep dive. Let's talk about the features, some of the technology behind how it's possible. Will, can you take us through some of the tech specs?
Of course. So I suppose we take a little journey. So the device, once you put it on, it has just over 8 cameras on the outside. That's all feeding information in. You've got 6 microphones, and you've also got some LiDAR scanners and some Touch ID scanners and True Depth cameras, which are going to kind of like bring in a lot more content. That's mapping the world around you. And then inside the Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro, you actually have 4 more cameras that are tracking your eyes. All of that sensor information is being put into the brand new R1 chip, which is Apple's silicon chip. That's tying all of that data together, and it's feeding it in a single stream over to the M2, the M2 chip that we've seen in MacBooks and iPads before. So that's actually where the whole spatial computing comes into play. And that then feeds out into 2 postage size 4K screens, essentially. They're OLED, and it's got a combined pixels of just over 23 million. So it's massive. And actually the technology behind it is incredible. So that's where you start coming into the Vision Pro world.
So not only is it like dense when it comes to the pixels, but all of the things you mentioned before, all of those sensors and data getting fed in, getting processed, all happening within milliseconds or microseconds.
The latency is next to nothing.
So the output or the end result of that is just us feeling that whatever it's doing is just doing it in real time.
Yeah, exactly. The output is that you look through Vision Pro. You do have to remind yourself you can't see through the product. Yep. You're looking at screens, but you see your hands in front of you and they're in real time, right? There's no delay. And that's the same for audio as well. So spatial audio is built in and it's giving you a fully immersive experience.
You mentioned that earlier this morning. It's really the audio that's equally as important as the visual.
Completely. Yeah. If you look at some of the other products on the market, they don't have audio as a forethought. And I think that's what ties Apple Vision Pro into top position at the moment.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. Audio-wise, what's the paradigm shift there? Is it the fact that it understands space and where audio is placed? Is that
spatial audio. You've seen it on AirPods Pro before. They have it on HomePods as well. So you understanding that left channel is left channel in the old days, left and right. Similar vibe, but this time it's actually beamforming those sounds to the right points in your ear, so you know and understand where things are within a certain space. And yeah, it does it amazingly with
So
Apple
it's not
Vision Pro.
like a tweeter, woofer, doof type thing. It's a
No. Yeah, it's a full experience.
Yeah.
So,
Now, I mean, I've got a dumb question actually, because this is something I forgot to ask
Yeah.
at the Apple Store when I did the demo. Can anyone else hear what you're hearing? That was one thing I wasn't sure about, because obviously it's, you're so immersed, but I wasn't actually sure if anyone could hear any of the audio.
You can kind of hear it. If
Slightly.
you're right next to it, you can hear
Okay.
the audio. You can obviously pair up Apple AirPods
Okay, yeah.
with it,
I think
or any
so
other
as well.
Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah.
The AirPods Pro USB-C version actually will do H2 to H2 chip,
Yep.
which is super low latency audio, which means that when something happens on screen, it's happening at the same time in your ear, which is awesome.
And I think that's something a lot of people were sort of worried about, being the first version of something, similar to when the first watch came out, how well some of the latency and stuff like that is actually going to be. And I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was, I think. And I think, Nico, you were the same too.
exactly, yeah. So how do you interface with this thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. 3 ways. So
Yep.
you've got your hands,
Yep.
you've got your eyes.
So no tracking devices or
No need to hold anything. No.
Yep.
You actually do want to reach out and grab the content that's in front of you, but you can't. You do have to remind yourself of that. But yeah, it's going to be pinch, pull. It's a 3D space, so you can use your 3D motions. You can use your eyes as a cursor. And then, you can also use your voice. So you can use Siri to dictate what you want to do around you.
sounds very immersive.
Yeah, it
All
is.
your senses. Very Apple to be considerate about the materials being used.
That's right. Yeah, 100% recycled aluminium in the enclosure of the Vision Pro, and then also in the battery. So I think there's 100% recycled gold on the logic board as well, which is great. So that's all going towards their carbon neutral goals in 2030.
So I think a good segue would be to talk about the software and how you interface with it once you have it on. Christina, some of the features on that side.
Yep. I mean, well, one of the first things I remember saying when I was doing the demo was how easy it was actually to set up and being guided through it. I said even my mum could be able to set this up. You know, she's not overly tech savvy, but she can work an iPhone. She's pretty good at it. But I could easily see her sitting there and actually being able to set that up on her own.
And that's very Apple, right?
Yeah.
That sort of intuitive type, like, you know, the typical like, oh, my 2-year-old can operate an iPhone
Exactly.
type thing, right? So
Yeah.
you'd want to hope for something being so sophisticated, keeping that very much a
Definitely.
intuitive experience.
And it could have been something, I think, easily that they could have got lost in, overcomplicating it. But then being Apple, I'm not overly surprised that they were
Especially
able to simplify it.
being a space, I mean, yeah, I'm going to start to use some bad words here, but the AR, VR space is naturally very tech,
Yes,
very
nerdy.
a high learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where the product comes into its own category. And
Definitely.
they've come out with the word spatial computing, and it is very much spatial computing. You're in a space and the computer is around you. And,
Yeah.
and I think that plays true in all the experiences that we've had with it so far.
Yeah, and I mean, you can definitely see that in the experience with the sort of depth of view that you get compared to something like the Meta. It's all around you. You can look, every way, and you'll see exactly what you want to see. You know, you can put windows wherever you feel like it, and be in an environment. You can choose whatever environment you want. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Touching on that comparison, I have used the MetaQuest 2 maybe a year or two now. So, and we'll get to our actual impressions of Apple Vision Pro, but preempting that, it's night and day. There's just no comparison. There's a field of view difference. There's a resolution difference. And then when it comes to controlling and using gestures, navigating around, the ease of use on the Apple Vision Pro is just something else.
So the interface itself, I found it very similar to WatchOS. So the layout of all the apps, and even just the way you can move windows and things like that, flick through them.
You know how you had to look, like it understanding where you're looking?
Yes.
I've never experienced anything like that. So it was very foreign at the beginning, but then became very automatic.
Yeah.
I actually had a bit of a problem with it where I'm quite a quick computer user with my mouse, and I look at the screen normally, move my mouse there and look away at something else
So
to
you're too
click.
quick.
And I was clicking on things that I wasn't trying to click on because I've forgot that my eyes is where
Is
I'm
the
going to
pointer.
click.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget when you're using it, how you're actually using it, because it's just happening in real time. So it is very cool.